The murder of Private First Class Solomon Robinson is one of the most haunting unsolved crimes in New York's recent history. A promising 19-year-old United States Army soldier home on leave. Robinson was brutally murdered in April 1998 while walking through St. Mary's Park in the Bronx. The case remains unsolved over 2 decades later, leaving a family shattered and a community still searching for answers. Despite renewed efforts from law enforcement and a substantial reward, silence has surrounded the case, underscoring the complexities of urban crime, gang culture, and witness reluctance. Solomon Robinson was a vibrant young man with a bright future. Born and raised in the Bronx, he joined the United States Army out of a sense of purpose and duty. Stationed at Fort Benning, Georgia, he was on leave and visiting family in his hometown when tragedy struck. Described by those who knew him as warm-hearted, ambitious, and deeply respectful, Solomon had plans for a long career in the military and was already distinguishing himself as a soldier. His visit home in April 1998 was meant to be a short one, catching up with family and old friends before returning to his post. Sadly, it would be his last. On April 3, 1998, Solomon was walking to a nearby store through St. Mary's Park, a place he knew well from his childhood. The park, however, had become increasingly dangerous due to gang activity and violence. At approximately 10 p.m., Solomon was ambushed. He was shot in the chest and stabbed multiple times. His face and neck bore deep slash wounds, injuries law enforcement would later associate with gang initiation rituals, specifically within factions of the Bloods known as the Nine Trey Gangsters. Despite the presence of people in the park that evening, including a reported party, no one came forward to identify the assailants. Solomon was pronounced dead shortly after the attack. Detectives on the case initially hoped the crowded setting might yield witnesses or leads. But even after canvassing the area and interviewing residents, the investigation stalled. One individual known as Frank provided a lead, claiming to have seen the murder. However, his testimony was later discredited when he admitted the story came from a teenage girl named Brenda, who ultimately refused to testify. Law enforcement suspected that fear of gang retaliation played a major role in the silence. The nature of Solomon's injuries and the environment of St. Mary's Park pointed investigators toward a likely gang motive. Yet no solid evidence could link specific individuals to the crime. In the late 1990s, New York City experienced a surge in gang-related violence. St. Mary's Park, located in the South Bronx, had become a hotspot for such activity. The methodical brutality inflicted on Solomon, including the characteristic buck 50 facial slash, matched initiation tactics used by Bloods-affiliated gangs. Authorities believed Solomon may have been targeted due to a case of mistaken identity, retaliation, or as part of a gang's need to prove dominance. What made the crime particularly gut-wrenching was that Solomon was not involved in gang activity. He was a soldier, home for a visit, and simply in the wrong place at the wrong time. For years, the case remained cold. But in 2022, NYPD Detective Robert Klein, a former Army member himself, reopened the file. He reached out to retired officers, reviewed cold case files, and re-interviewed anyone still reachable. Despite these efforts, the case still lacks a clear suspect. Detective Klein has emphasized that resolving the case may depend on one key witness coming forward, someone who, for more than 2 decades, has chosen silence over justice. The Robinson family never recovered from Solomon's murder. His brother, Russell Robinson, recalled the trauma of identifying Solomon's body and watching the family spiral into grief. Their mother, overwhelmed with sorrow, died years later. Another sibling passed away, and today, Russell is the only immediate family member still living. One of the most heartbreaking elements of the case is the culture of silence that has hampered it from the beginning. Despite a reported crowd at the park, including teenagers and adults, no eyewitness has ever been willing to come forward publicly. Detectives continue to emphasize that anyone with information can submit tips anonymously. The FBI has offered a $25,000 reward for information leading to an arrest and conviction. Still, the case remains frozen in time, awaiting the break it so desperately needs. More than 25 years later, the case remains open, and his family and advocates still believe justice is possible.